I wanted to welcome you all and introduce Hunter Reynolds here. And he's an AIDS activist and artist. He lives in New York City and he's lived all over the world. And he's pretty much been in the activism movement since the beginning. So I'll turn it over to Hunter. Thank you so much, Hunter.
Hey, thank you. So thank you, Melissa and Christy, for inviting me to do this. It's been amazing to get ready for. Hello, everybody. World AIDS Day. I'm happy to be alive and here today. So we can start with the first image. Okay, so I'm starting here with the AIDS is killing artists, now homophobia is killing art. In 1987, I joined ACT UP as a foot soldier, and part of joining ACT UP was my moving to New York after school in 1984, and AIDS just coming into my life through friends getting sick, and ACT UP became a vehicle for me to express myself, and you know, I love going to demonstrations. I would just join a group and do what I was told, and I consider myself a soldier, not a mover shaker there. I was, until 1989, I found out I was HIV positive for already 6 years, and I formed my own activist affinity group called Art Positive with Aldo Hernandez, and it was all around the homophobia and censorship in the arts and the Helms Amendment, and we were a grassroots affinity group that wanted to put together demonstrations and grassroots connecting other organizations to battle homophobia and censorship in the arts. Move on, next slide. So as part of that trip in that year, this is Stop the Church demonstration, and I wanted to be a part of the preparation for this demonstration because I wanted to have this demonstration as being the first one that I actually get arrested on. But I was unable to participate in any of the workshops because I was in Los Angeles, flew in that day, that night, that morning, and got trapped in the 6,000 people at the demonstration. And it was against the church and Cardinal O'Connor's policies about AIDS and condoms. And so I just got frustrated behind barricades, and I threw them into the street and ran, and these 4 cops picked me up at the moment. Tracy, Leon Mostovoy captured this image, and I said to them, could you please put me down in the street on 52nd Street with a die-in because I want to be arrested from there. Don't take me to the paddy wagon, please. Just put me on the street. And they did. And then I had my first arrest, and I was going on the paddy wagon to jail for the first time. So that was a significant moment in my activist life. And the next slide. Yeah, yeah, video, more address. Okay, stop it. Let me yeah, so this is the memorial address. In 1993, I had the opportunity to go to Germany for an artist residency. And it was the names quote on the wall in Washington of that year, 1990, its entirety that I went to, and which I got the catalog for. So I got the catalog for the names quote catalog, which had 26,000 names in it at the time. And so when I went back to Germany, I did a performance at an exhibition where I was dressed as a nurse, and I had a hospital bed, and I was sitting there with a ephemera on the bed reading the names, and I read all 26,000 names in the catalog. And that's what gave me the idea to make this dress, a memorial dress. It had the original names on the dress were all from the names book catalog. And then every city it was shown in, I'd have a book where people could write the names, and those would eventually be added to the dress. So the first exhibition of the piece was at the ICA Dress Codes show in Boston, which was an amazing show. And I was there for 3 months, and I did performances every day for almost 6 weeks. And so this is a video of that piece from that first exhibition. So go ahead and play it. They got dressed publicly in vanity. Okay, we stop. Yeah, so this piece was inspired by Ray Navarro and his, Ray Navarro was a friend of mine who was dying in 1989, 90. He was an AIDS activist, a video activist, and one of the founders of Diva TV and Act Up. And he was just a genius person, a human being. And then through the process of his illness, he imparted some words to me that were about controlling your body and controlling this disease and not letting the disease control me or my art. And this was his trying to express his awareness of what his denial in a certain way of not getting tested before he found out he was positive. So before he got sick. And so, that was the thing. A lot of people didn't want to know their status back then. So I took those words and I changed my art in this piece and another piece as a result of that wisdom he imparted to me. Next slide. This is images by Maxine Henderson, photographer I collaborate with in Goss Within. Next slide. So as part of taking back of my body and taking back, doing what Ray said, I did a performance where I went to my doctor, to Howard Grossman, and said, can I give like vials of my blood? Can you give me vials of my blood so I want to do a performance? And he said, no, that's illegal. I said, well, please, I want to make art out of it. And I explained to him, because in 1989, he prescribed me 600 milligrams of AZT. And it was my activism and my work with ACT UP that gave me a voice. And I really gave me a voice not only to speak out about whatever it was I wanted to speak out, but to confront a doctor on the height of the AIDS epidemic at the beginning, who was giving 600 milligram AZT pills to people. It was the only treatment. And it was killing everybody. And I said, I had friends in the hospital. I was under 200 T cells. And I confronted him and said, I respect you, Howard, you're an amazing doctor. However, this treatment doesn't seem to be helping anybody, and everyone's still dying on it. So I don't want to take it. And that was a good decision, because later it became true they were killing people with this 600 milligrams. It was way, way too much. And so inside this pills are this blood spot, which I then dropped spots of blood on paper, and I use them to this day as a way to reclaim my body, metaphorically, from the disease, to transform my body through my art for healing you and me and everybody. Like, that's kind of the metaphor of the work that I make. I want it to be not only for me, but for everyone. So this is me taking the body back, and this is the first original AT pills prescribed to me inside there. And on them was the Girls Welcome logo, which will come up next. Next slide. So the first piece I made, so in 2005, I had a series of HIV strokes. So all my work is kind of pivoting off my health situation, and each step of the way, how I've had to deal with health issues, AIDS issues, in combination with making my art. So I had a series of HIV strokes in 2005, which went misdiagnosed as neuropathy. And it ended up being a fungal infection on my brain that they had never heard of before, never seen before. It was a fungal infection on the inside of fluid pressing in. And I lost the use of my whole right side, my right arm, and I had to reinvent my entire art making process with one hand. So this series of works, one of the things I did between 1987 and 1993 is I collected every article that I could find in the New York Times, the New York Post, the Daily News on AIDS, queer, gay and lesbian culture. Clipped them, nearly 4,000 articles. I had some help. I didn't do it all, but I stacked the paper and people came and clipped. And then I did some installations with them back then. And then I put the box away and forgot about the box. And when I came back to Florida after 2005 and having a stroke, and going through my inventory and going through my life and looking back at everything that had happened before, I found this box and clippings. And I made that my next exhibition. I presented to Leah Gangitano, a participant. It took 2 years. It all took a year and a half just to scan all the articles. And then the first image I worked with was, this is unicorn, is the AZT logo on Girls Welcome logo on the AZT actual pill. And then I superimposed blood spot, my blood, inside the horse. So that's what that is. It's a logo of AZT on the actual pill. And then I just Photoshop, did this whole series, which is amounted to 2 bodies of work of integrating my work, overlapping my history as an activist into the original activist articles. So move on, next slide. And I was able to, in each piece, develop, different ways of using the blood spots and my personal history. That's me up in the right as a teenager surfing. I was able to weave together not only my story, but the AIDS story, and that in Photoshop, I could make this and hire people to sew together. I learned how to sew with one hand, but it's too complicated. So, I had to change everything. I used to take pictures of myself, and this was representing 3 years of work in transforming all the aspects of how I had to make my art with one hand. Next slide. So this is Chicago Act Up. So Daniel Berger, in my 2015 show PPOW, commissioned me to make a piece on his archives. And he's an activist, doctor, who has made a significant impact on AIDS community in Chicago. So I went to Chicago to research Chicago ACT UP. And this piece is one of the triptych of Chicago ACT UP. And Chicago ACT UP was very different than New York. They had much more interracial membership. Lots. ACT UP New York didn't have very many African American members, especially male, and the female women in ACT UP had a big experience here. And so this panel representing the women of ACT UP. Next panel, Chicago. And so I weaved together all this scans from the Chicago archives. And it was really cool to go there and learn about Chicago ACT UP and scan the hundreds of newspaper articles. My first opportunity to make a piece that didn't have to do with my archives, but the University of Chicago ACT UP archives. Next piece. And this is Dan's, these are some of Dan's archives. And I was able to put the Monroe Address and the AZT bill. So it's kind of weaving together old bodies of work as well. Next piece. Okay, this is medication reminder. Can you bring up the video first image? Yeah. So for the last 10 years, I've been working with George Leiter on all my videos. He's a video maker, and we collaborate on my videos. And this is a video that was part of my show, Medication Reminder, in 2015. And this piece is about a friend, Kathleen White, who called me every day for almost a year and a half to remind me to take my medications because I'm not compliant. If I get half of them in my mouth a month, it's a miracle I'm alive because I'm not very compliant with my medications. But I had to be compliant for a special treatment I was on, and she said, Hunter, I'll call you every day. And she did, and I recorded those calls. And then in 2014, she contracted stage 4 lung cancer and died. And I made this video in commemoration for her after she died, using all the voice messages she left on my machine. So go forward.
Hey, Hunter, darling. It's Kathleen. How are you? I hope you have your woolies on. I hope you have your woolies on. And it's supposed to get real cold here. So maybe just give the littlest chance, littlest thought to sleeping in the big house. Don't want you to get sick, honey.
These are all medications I did not take. Okay, so then we're skipping back a bit in time. I'm not doing this chronological order. So this is the drag pose series. In 1990, I did an exhibition at Simon Watson Gallery where I had created my alter ego, Bettina Dupre. I was showing her video, showing the exhibition of photographs taken by Michael Wakefield for the first time. So this is a lead-in video, and then we'll show some more for the exhibition. Go ahead, play it. Okay, stop it. So here I would get dressed in the vanity during the first part of the day and putting my makeup on. And then at 1 o'clock, I'd get into the cage and I'd be bolted into the cage all the rest of the day, 5 days a week. and I did everything in the cage, from sleep in it to pee out of it, just like everything. But I was showing the exhibition, I was still struggling with what I was doing with drag. And I was influenced by the drag queens at the Pyramid Club and being part of the Pyramid Club scene in the DJ booth with Aldo Hernandez and seeing these genius queens perform, Lady Bunny, RuPaul, The Homa, Happy Face, Hattie, Taboo, you know, they all inspired me, but I did not see myself as somebody who could do what they were doing. And I wanted to take it out of context and put it in my art somehow. So I simply had Michael Wakefield document the transition of my face, which is when we go on to the next slide, I think. This is Shush. So this is part of the drag post series that Michael Wakefield, took all these photographs for 1.5 years, where I just posed. Basically, it was about posing and then about taking myself out of context and going to bizarre places like McDonald's and sit there and drag and just see what happens. Next picture. So this picture is the first picture of me doing this idea of just transforming, very well holding an idea from Hunter to this persona in one session. This is the first session. And on that night, we were supposed to go to the kitchen for a performance of Christian Marclay. And Aldo came to pick me up and Michael was going, "You're a natural, you're a natural." And I really didn't see myself because I had my glasses off and I was like blurry eyed. I could sort of see. And then they convinced me to go out and drag to the kitchen, dressed like this. That no one would recognize me, and no one did recognize me. They introduced me to my friends as something fun, performance artist from LA. I'm in drag at the kitchen. Christian Marclay, New York City, 1989. Who could think what could happen? It could just be fun. With all the reactions that I could have gotten, what happened was hostility. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I was actually pushed away by one of my friends who I was just playing with, you know, because I knew they didn't know it was me, but I was saying hi and trying to play with them a little bit. And during intermission, and I got physically and emotionally blocked from talking to anybody. And Aldo saw this, and in the cab on the way home, we talked about of all the reactions. Why did that happen? How come that happened? And we just said it must be something about taking it out of context. There was no reason for me to be there in drag, and that is just how people reacted to it. So I decided to continue to explore it because of that. So, however, 3 days later, I saw my pictures and I was confronted with my own identity conflict. Oh, am I really a drag queen? My whole identity, masculine identity, got confronted, and my kind of slightly, you know, homophobic, drag phobic issues that go with many, you know, people. And that all came up in this project, in these pictures. So it took me some months to process that, to get to the point of showing and creating patina and expressing this journey that went on for 12 years, my identity. So next slide. So as part of that, doing public performance art became part of the thing. And this was an opportunity for my boyfriend, Piotr Nathan, who was half German, half Polish, to go to Warsaw in 1991 for an exhibition, a queer exhibition, in the city of Warsaw, at 2 months after Perestroika happened and fall of the wall collapsing, and the emergence of the underground gay scene for the first time. So the way the communist countries worked with repression and expression, the street posters, street art, and graffiti was one of the only ways that artists communicated their messages, political messages, in public. So I wanted to make this poster as a public artwork as part of the exhibition. It says Oblicia Wolnish, which means the face of freedom, or freedom has many forms. Who loves you? Continue to pray, my byline. And this would go up all over the city of Warsaw. Next slide. And it did. And it was amazing. It was just an amazing thing because we were going to the first gay and lesbian community center, first gay club, first gay anything had just come out from the underground. And so we got a lot of press in the new emergence of the underground gay scene. Next slide. And as Tina's performance, I was just posing with people who came to the exhibition. And because we got a lot of press and because it was, the first gay art thing that ever happened there, we got lines of people. So hundreds of people were waiting for me to do this performance. It was crazy. These amazing Polish people. And it was just an incredible event for me and Piotr and to be a part of this emerging new queer community in Poland. Next slide. So just getting back a little bit, this is the banquet. And with Christiane Stathakos, we created in 1992 a banquet, which was based on Merit Oppenheim's performance in 1959, where Andre Breton, the surrealist, she wanted to create a performance where she put the patriarchy on man on the table and the food around the body of a naked man. And the surrealist men wouldn't allow her to do it. So we recreated what she wanted to do by putting the patriarchy on the table, and men ads and the feminist mythological treatment here. There's a video on YouTube of the banquet. I'm not showing it here. So if you want to see more of the performance, go to my YouTube page and click on the banquet. Next slide. So as part of the 1994 25-year celebration of Stonewall, the memorial address was the Creative Time project here in the city, shown at Simon Watson Gallery on Green Street as an official project for the celebration of 25 years of Stonewall. I'd been living in Germany for a year by then, doing my dervish dancing with Maxine Henryson as my collaborator and photographer, and she would follow me around and we would do performances. So this was the first opportunity that I could do the white dress, the dervish dancing as a girl performance in a political parade that was split. That year, there was two parades because the official parade wanted to walk by the United Nations, and they did. And the radicals wanted to go the regular route. So I wanted to just go up to the public library under the Becoming Visible exhibition banner, which was the largest gay and lesbian queer exhibition that had happened to date, and just be there doing my dervish dance as the parade went by. Giuliani was newly elected mayor, and he had put down an order to leave the queers alone. And that's why the naked people in this parade were not allowed. I mean, were allowed. Lots of tits and ass, it was great. So at this moment, it's the radical fairies coming up and the parade stopped and it just became this moment of just synergy. Next slide. And they were kind of worshiping me, Allah Buddha, Allah Buddha. It was crazy and it was fun and like this spontaneous, just totally spontaneous event happened on the steps of the public library. Next slide. And it was, a proud moment for me and Maxine. I mean, it was just synergy happening. And then I continued to spin through the whole parade that day doing with the white dress. And this project is an 8-year project. I went to cities all over the world. Next slide. So I did this first dervish dance as a part of the ICA memorial dress exhibition, because often I take the dress off and I just spin around to loosen up, and I realized that I was actually doing dervish dancing. I studied dervish dancing, traditional, and I kind of made it my own guerrilla art projects. Next slide. So I traveled all over the world, Germany, Belgium, Holland, France, LA, cities all around the world, doing guerrilla performance art. And this is in Belgium. She caught this amazing picture of me, the rotating, spinning, and the angel touching the angel's foot. And next slide. And it was really a confrontation for me to take this to Los Angeles, where I was retracing my tracks. I lived in LA for 10 years, and it was where I began as a runaway teenager, went to college, living downtown. And this picture represents everything about confronting life on the street and doing a dervish dance. These people have no idea what I'm doing. But the Latinos, they took me as a Madonna figure, and this homeless dude just emulated me, and it was amazing. Next slide. So this is Venice Beach, and again, the three graces appear throughout these photographs, and this dude, it was the first confrontational thing that happened in any performance I did. I thought he was going to hit me. He started to really aggress on me, and he called me a faggot, twirling faggot. And so I just had to, in that moment, decide what I was going to do and how I was going to react. I didn't want to provoke him anymore. I was about to move on, but then he hesitated, and I said, "Dance with me," and he did. So he emulated beating me up, but he didn't. And he made it into kind of a funky performance for his friends, and his friends were all cheering. And it was a moment of transition where conflict, I was able to subdue the conflict and get this amazing image of me and this dude dancing together. And there's always some weird handicap. This lower right picture is Berlin, the Kudam, and the passing wheelchair. Lots of images like that throughout the project. And this grace, me offering grace to this woman on the right here, breathing on people. I would actually do real healing dervish dancing. Next slide. And this is part of my new work, which is with George Leiter, another unfinished video. And we are making a new video project together. And this is imagery from that project. And it's all about my new look and my new face and my creature self, and how I've had to adapt in the last 4 years through all these medical things that have been happening continually to me for the last 4 years, and how I've been able to just make them into my art and to deal with it and try to stay alive. And this tumor and this thing is happening right now has been the most difficult, extreme thing that I've had to deal with. But this cancer on my nose is the beginning. Can we go to the video next? This is an in progress piece, and by George and I, and it's a clip, and it includes the nose. So we're working on the new form, but go ahead and play it. we can stop here. So this is work in progress, and I'm very excited about finishing this video and incorporating my new body into the video, and even the scans, which I've, radiation scans of MRIs, and have these really cool images of them. I'm going to incorporate, and hopefully I can get this done. I'm just a brief thing about what's going on medically with me, and I wonder what this is. So I have squamous cell skin cancer, which is a common sun skin cancer, which I've been dealing with for the last 10 years by surface surgeries. And however, my doctor in my Park Avenue doctor, who was taking me as a charity case, said to me, Hunter, with HIV, this is a very aggressive cancer. I've had other patients with HIV, it'll kill you fast if you don't stay on top of it. And I thought I was staying on top of it. I had the nose redone. They had to take my nose off and redo my whole face. And then I was dealing with superficial skin stuff until last summer. This bump appeared on my temple. Turned out to be a large tumor growing inside my eye, behind my eye. So I lost my eye and the skin graft. And that was traumatic enough. And then 4 months of radiation, and the radiation didn't work, and the tumor's back. So I'm undergoing chemotherapy right now. And as I do this chemotherapy, it's a challenge, and I have, it's been but it seems to be working. The tumor's shrinking, and I feel hopeful and that I'm going to get through this, and it's going to be okay, and I'll survive this. However, this last option it just doesn't work. So I'm confronted with death again in a really direct way, and I'm trying to deal with it in my art, and things like this get me up and help me stay alive. So the next video is also, it's a little bit backwards. Go, yeah, cue it up to our place. So this is Into the Light, and it was made 4 years ago, and it was part of the Bronx Museum exhibition, Art AIDS America, and I had a scheduled performance. 2 weeks before this performance, I went into stage 4 liver failure, having to do with hepatitis C and my medications, which had caused stage 2 liver failure. I was on my deathbed. I actually died on the operating table and had the whole out-of-body experience, and was going to cancel this performance. And I thought, no, don't cancel this performance. Bring the community in. Ask the community to help you do this. And so this is Layla, who is kind of I mentored, and she lived with me for a year while she was transitioning from Uganda. And this is kind of a marriage of two queers struggling through queer society at different times. Her struggle from Uganda, my struggle as an AIDS queer from the activist movement. And this marriage of synergy happened in this performance, and everyone came together and made this happen. It's just incredible. And it was, then we ended in the, we processed out of the museum, ended in the room of the museum that had all my dead friends' art in it. Play the video. And we're gonna just go on, and then after this, Q&A.
Were you going to be dressed now too? I remember seeing you around. Yeah.
The videos by Conrad Ventura. Oh, it's like Gail Paxton. Rounds by Joel Handor. Thank you to everyone who helped make this film. So this room is where we ended. The main room. And all my dead friends are on the wall. That was really how I wanted the piece to end. And thank you to everyone who collaborated. Rafael Sanchez, many people came to make this piece happen. And I'm very grateful. So thank you. This is the end of my presentation, and we're going to open it up to questions, and people can comment. And thank you for being here today. I'm very honored and getting a little emotional. So, yeah. Love to everybody. So we can open it up whenever you want. If anyone has any questions, want to talk, we can do
If
that.
there's any questions, please feel free to stick them in the chat, or let's see, I can make it so that people can unmute as long as you
Yeah,
don't.
unmute everybody so I can talk. I want to see who's here.
And talk, I think you can do that now.
Unmute quick, Nora from Troy. Love to you, Hunter.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for, I remember my Uncle Bob, Robert McDowell, who we lost to AIDS in the 80s.
Wow. Tribute. Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to say anything?
Hi, Hunter from London.
Hey, who is this?
It's Lisa.
Lisa Uyghur.
Yes, it's
Oh my
really.
God. Lisa
I
Uyghur
know.
and I graduated from school together in 1984, and she's a fabulous performance artist and actually inspired me in school to do performance art. And hey, Lisa.
It was a great tribute, great performances. I know your work, but it's great to see it all together and be here with you.
Thank
And
you.
I want to speak to you privately anyway.
Yeah,
I
we'll
will
have
tell
a
you.
separate Zoom.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. You're an
Anybody else?
inspiration, you're an inspiration. I just made a comment. I mean, won't forget Jimmy, and you were just talking about
Yeah.
being surrounded by, all your friends, and, today is a hard day. Jimmy will always be on my mind.
And then she's talking about our friend Jimmy Riva, who was an amazing performance artist and who was one of our good friends throughout life, and he collaborated with Lisa.
Yeah.
And we lost him I don't know what year he died, but
95. I just moved to London, and he
yeah,
died six months after I moved here. I couldn't get to the funeral, and I was devastated. So it just feels really reassuring being here with someone like you that, you know, goes back and understands, because it is a really hard day. And I think that people tend to forget how hard we all struggled through it. It's, you know, now it's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
easier for people to go through treatment. And your work was always so inspiring. And, you know, Jimmy and I, what we did, you know, and Liz Young, and, you
right.
know, we had a good group, and we lost a lot of good people, and we just have to remember and never forget, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, we do. And thank you. And, you know, and struggling with the long-term survivor thing is a whole new thing. And, you know, it's like aging, normal aging stuff on top of all the HIV stuff that happens.
Yeah.
So it's been a challenge. And
Well, you're an inspiration. You have been through so much, and to be able to continue to document it and go on with that. And I think it is keeping you alive. Like you said, you're going through this right now, and I just sending you love and light to get through this, because you've been through the wars. And you know, and we're all here for you and listening. And I
yeah,
think,
I mean, I really feel the love and support from everybody every day. It has been amazing. It does keep me going. Thank
yeah,
you.
I love you, sweetheart. I love you.
Hunter, it's Jim Farrat. I want to first tell you how you've triggered me throughout this
Do
presentation.
you hear him?
It-
Yeah. Okay.
how you have triggered me throughout this presentation to so many memories. I happen to be in the room.
He's in my room live.
So many memories of those people that have gone. Particularly, I remember with our positive, and there's so many that have lost, and you bring them all in a very beautiful way. And I want to say there's such a sense of beauty in all of your work, despite what you're going through, what we're going through, even today. But I wanted to ask you a question.
Right.
One, blood. You have used blood in your painting work.
Yeah.
And you've also used ritual
Yes.
in your work. And I'd like you to talk about why you chose each of those, using each of those.
Well, actually, it was a blood spot performance, and getting my blood from
Sure,
Dr.
blood, yes.
Grossman was my first ritual performance, really, that I think of as the beginning of my ritualistic shamanistic art. That aspect of the artwork that is shamanistic and that I became aware of being, I was a shaman. And I actually studied a lot of shamanistic stuff in the 90s, and energetic light healing and dervish dancing and Reiki. And I incorporated all that into my work. And I eventually joined Eastern Mountain Retreat Center, where I became a shaman wildfire developer, and bonfires and ritual art making as part of my art. So that is, blood spot is where all that began. What was the other part of the question?
The second question about ritual and transformation, the kind of rituals that I've seen you perform in community, and they're very cathartic.
Yeah, so part of the ritual thing and part of being aware of, in the memorial dress, when I became aware that my body was a vehicle, not only for my own healing, but in really connection to the astral plane and spiritually, and everything about turning and spinning, and that piece, and holding presence for all those names, and people cathartically crying and finding names. I realized in that piece and that work, I was an empath, and that is how I became aware of my empathic artistic abilities. And I've been aware of that, and that's how and when you're aware of it, you can use it and you can learn it, and you can actually work with it, as I did with the dervish school performance dancing. So yeah, so that became an awareness as part of my work that continues today, although I'm the last 4 years, everything's kind of shifted to this much more real, physical, responding to many more physical things that are happening every few months. Something like seems like something different happens. But I managed to get through it all, and and it really is about community. Bringing the community and spirit that you all share with me that has gotten me through the last 5 years. Really, it has, and I'm blessed. I just feel blessed.
Well, there's a chorus of love coming from all over the world at this very moment for you to celebrate not only all of those that we've lost, but to celebrate the people that have continued to just survive, and you making art despite we can see what your body is going through, but your spirit as an artist is so magnetic and so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. I love him. He's one of my best friends. I'm honored to have him in my life. And he was here helping me hold myself together. I was very nervous.
Wonderful, Hunter. We have a couple questions in the chat. Do you mind if I read some to you?
No.
From Brianna, just says, thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your work. For the last piece you showed, the dress and the paint were very colorful, elaborate, and beautiful. What inspired, was that piece inspired by Ugandan traditions, or did it have any significance to honor someone?
Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Yeah.
So actually, I lived in Bushwick over a graffiti store, and graffiti became a part of my life on a weekly basis because people came from all over the world to Art Tech Boutique, one floor before my floor, to spray paint walls. I've inhaled so much spray paint over the last 10 years.
Right.
It's a miracle I'm not having cancer or something from that. But it was the graffiti art being created by people from all over the world on my building that inspired me, because they had to start painting myself with graffiti. And so by the time I got to the performance at the Bronx Museum, I'd already done several graffiti self-painted stuff with the latex, water-based, unpoisoned, or not toxic, supposedly graffiti spray paint. So as part of that performance, I did incorporate some Ugandan traditions into that performance, and had some of the staffs and objects and things, and they made some of the props. So yeah, but that spray paint thing came from my living in Bushwick and looking at graffiti, and I love graffiti art. So and that's what I'm doing now. I'm turning myself into a piece of graffiti, and this creature that's emerging from the dark lagoon.
Yes. The colors in the end, you're like this herstory mermaid coming up.
Exactly. And so, I mean, this new work and that video with George Leiter really represents this new body of work, which is around the creatures, and it divides my life into kind of these creatures. And one of them is the merman. I want to be able to do the merman and the old man of the sea. And it's all about the ocean and merging out of the ocean, because I'm a Florida boy. The cancer came from Florida. It's all about Florida. and the swamp boy that I am. I grew up in the swamps.
Someone says, you've lived all over the world. What is your favorite place?
Well, I haven't lived all over the world, but I lived in Berlin. And I've been around the world, certain parts of the world, mostly European. I haven't had a chance to be in Africa or in Asia yet. Bucket list stuff, Egypt. But I lived in Berlin for 10 years, and Berlin was the happiest time of my life. And it's where I kind of came into full fruition, and I kept living and got the cocktail, and it just went on. And Berlin was the best place for me. And it's kind of my one regret in life is, a few regrets in life, is that I moved back. I should still be living in Berlin.
Right? And then a couple people were asking about your art and your activism practice, and which came first and how do they interact?
Well, I came out in 1974, and as a 14-year-old high school kid, turning 15. So this act of me coming out was a radical act of me accepting my gayness as part of going into a club, the first gay club, with Donna Summer's "Love to Love You, Baby," and how dancing and Donna Summer and me coming out to the long version of Donna Summer at 14, turning 15 years old was the pinnacle of my activism. and within 2-3 weeks of me coming out as the first openly gay queer high school student,
Wow.
on the football team, within 3 weeks, it was an avalanche. 4,500 kids in the largest high school in Florida, and eventually about 40 kids came out. And we started a club called the Breakfast Club, which we were skipping first class, going to Denny's, hanging out. And one of the lesbians on the yearbook committee actually got into the yearbook as an official
Club.
club of the high school, which it wasn't.
That's great.
That's in the yearbook, and I look back at my life, and that coming out was inspired by the Stonewall revolutionaries who were coming down to Florida, who were mentoring me in the service of the gay men who I was meeting on beaches and having sex with when I was 12 years old, early. And these men changed my life. They gave me the hope, they gave me the courage, they gave me the books, the front runner book. I was ready to commit suicide.
Wow.
At 13. And one of these men gave me that signal. I mean, these men were part of my life. They were coming down from New York, and they were Stonewall revolutionaries, and I was influenced by them. And,
Wow.
and when I look back at my life and went to the center when Patricia Warren Neal was giving her lecture there about the book, and I took my copy of the book and I said, "Will you sign this? You saved my life. This book saved my life. The front runner saved my life." She said, "I hear that a lot."
Wow.
I said, "Well, it was a positive book about two gay men, an athlete and a coach, and it just saved me." So,
And I know you're talking about the mentors that impacted you, and then you went on to mentor others by starting a.
So as part of my thing at Easton Mountain, a gay spiritual healing retreat center in upstate New York, I started a summer camp for homeless LGBT kids called Arts in the Woods. And every year I'd bring up 40 kids from 3 different cities, take them from Sylvia's Place, from New Alternatives, from all the homeless shelters here in the city, and actually create this summer camp with teachers, and Will Fisher was my partner in the summer camp, and I raised money and did this for 6 years. And then I always had an extra room in my loft or my old apartment, which I gave over to a homeless kid. So for 7 years,
Wow.
Straight, a homeless kids or 2 were living with me, and I was helping them get off the street. Coco, Layla, with my children, Kevin, the punk boy, and
Yeah.
and all that has ended. 5 years ago with the medical stuff, abruptly, and it was the deaths of some friends and that. And so I've kind of been absent from that and just been rolling this medical snowball.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I was able to do that, and it's one of my, proud things that I've created.
Absolutely. I mean, that's incredible. And I think it speaks to when you were talking about the spiritual journey and spinning in the memorial dress, and then that kind of turning into the dervish spinning and that kind of shamanistic aspect, and all that really, I think, connects up with the mentorship as well. It's just the healer in you.
Yeah, so now I'm being mentored by all of you.
Right. Any other questions, guys?
And I want to thank everybody for that, because that was really rework.
It's also important to remember and see present in this presentation how both male and female of all gender expressions came together to help you in some of your work. They participated in your work to be your support system, to be your inspiration. And those creative fights that people would have aesthetically and act up and in the streets politically were so energizing, Hunter. And you were present in all of that. And that comes through in your.
Well, yeah, so, act up and doing the demonstrations gave me like a power, and I saw how the power of this group was changing the world. And even now with Anthony Fauci back in our lives, in this new pandemic, which is horrific, reliving a pandemic of death that is even in many ways beyond anything AIDS was.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony Fauci, the person we had to get on our side to change our everything. We had to get Anthony Fauci on our side, and we were able to do that.
Wow.
And we had access to the drugs, access to the power structures, and we changed the world. And we're still, I'm alive today because of Spencer Cox and the tag groups of the people that I threw myself on the street for, dying for, so they could go in and change our government, and that worked. So I was proud for the first time in my life to be an American. We can change our government, we can do it, and we need to do it now more than anything. And it's about getting out in the streets and fighting and standing up for what you believe in, and backing that up with action, thought, and creativity to actually make the government change. You can scream and yell all you want. If you don't know how to do it and get it done, it's not going to happen.
Hey, Hunter.
Yeah, Trent.
How are you, though?
Good.
I've sat here and I've smoked 2 joints with a friend to celebrate you.
Thank you.
We for decades we've known each other through mutual friends and peripherally, but you really impressed me when we showed at the lower Fifth Aronson Gallery at Parsons, because you got the front room.
Yeah,
I got the back. Yeah, I got the back room. So what's new?
Well, that was where, like, doing that dress. I mean, that was cool. That's where we met. And
Right.
But the dress in the front room there got sun damaged, and I had to make the second dress anyway for Boston. So I was able to, from that exhibition, go from that to making the dress, adding all the names to it, and showing it again in Boston with all the names that they had written in the books added to the dress. So that exhibition helped create that moment of synergy.
Listen here, I want to compliment you or congratulate you for turning your rage, your anger, your the blood of your being, and turning it into art. I only this past year, since you were in hospital for the eye, did we really get to know each other. And like Jim said, magnetic. You are like, we are like brothers from a different mother. I love hearing the shaman aspect of your life, because that reminds me of the power that art heals.
Yeah.
I always say he plus art equals Tret.
Yeah.
And I just wrote a couple of notes. I love how you and Jim shared split screen. It totally Warholed my brain. I love, oh God, everybody who's online here. This is a code of mine that Hunter made even more special by adding all the color.
Oh yeah, bravo.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. It's about COVID and gunshots and HIV. But I am so proud to wear this thing, my friend. And we are not.
Well, it's like my hat from Joel. You know, we all help each other do our fashion. Joel Handor made this beautiful hat for me to wear today, and I'm proud to have worn it through the. Here we go.
You know,
Your
Hunter,
place looks good. I love these.
So thank you.
I love these portraits.
Yeah.
I love these portraits.
And you've kept sex in the picture. You've kept an erotic pulse in all your work. And I wondered if you ever had censorship problems or people being offended by your out front expression of your sexuality.
Well, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't know exactly. I mean, sex and me have a whole thing. So
Girl can't help it.
yeah, right. I have the only problems I've had censorship wise is posting some stuff on Facebook. They've taken down, banned my account 3 times.
It's a badge of honor.
Because I have nudity in my art. So, but no direct sexual stuff about personal.
I just want to, lastly, I want to say, lastly, a couple of weeks ago, I asked you a question about how you mythologize, how you have survived so much, and how you mythologize. I forget how
Mythologize, yeah.
mythologize.
Yeah.
How you put yourself into like a historic context.
Well,
and that's what I'm learning from you also. Nobody else is you're lucky because you have the fails.
Good point. So what I was able to learn at a very young age, because I had so anyone who knows my story knows the complete story. I had a very challenging life from my birth on. And I've had to deal with healing and trauma and chaos my entire life. And in that process, I learned how to mythologize myself and my pain in order to deal with it, because I had 2 choices: to crack down or stand up to it, and then take it in and let it out, let it go, and turn. I always knew, my grandmother taught me, nature taught me, and the angels who come around me, and the women in my life. I seek out mothers, nurturing women. I have women all over my life. The goddesses, I call them my goddesses, and they are my healers. Maxine, Chrisanne, I mean, I just have a whole list of women who Kathy Burkhardt. I mean, these women have, Susan Silas, have been able to hold my female and male self together. And so I learned all that very young. And I learned how to mythologize my own life. And hopefully, after I got through Ray's death and changed my art, I was able to become aware of all that. My journey of life and art was about the confrontation of my life with death. And that is how I was able to learn all that and to mythologize my own story so that I can still stand up and not crumble under it.
Hunter, can you talk a little bit about the paintings you've done that are behind you. You're doing
Yeah.
a series of self-portraits, and you've been painting your own face. So you're painting on yourself and you're painting yourself. And then some of the students asked, what artists should they look to, do you think, in the future that you know of that are working now?
Well,
I know that's a tough one.
that's a tough one. Because
Day at a time.
I've lost a lot of brain cells, and I have not been able to go out to exhibitions. And I'm having lost short-term memory loss now. And so I'm gonna pass on that question because
Sure, absolutely.
I haven't even been able to go to any exhibitions really and take that in. All I can say about it is your generation of queers are inspiring me. And so the new language, the new queers, you know, I want to talk about the word queer. In the first set of videos, the drag pose, I made a queen mirror in 1990. And I always ask, you know, when and how did we take the word queer back? How did that happen? And it happened because a set of things that lined up. Ray Navarro actually wrote and coined the word queer theory along with a lesbian historian, quoted in an essay, Queer Theory in 1989, 1990. And that was the first critical use of the word queer theory. And then Queer Nation developed as an offshoot, backed up. And it was difficult for me to go walking through the streets screaming, I'm queer, I'm here, I get used to it. Because I was gay bashed many times and called a queer from childhood on, and it was an epithet that was as bad as the other epithets are bad. Yeah. And it took me time to process that and take that word back. And clearly, when I made the queen mirror, made that cue, I almost put the word queer in with it, but I couldn't quite get there yet. I wish I had. But that was the moment that we took the word queer back, and that's how the history of it goes. And I like to talk about that. And then this is my new face, the monster face. And
looks like every shaman I could ever imagine, for sure.
Right. So this got me going in the hospital. I set up a studio in the hospital because I was in the hospital for 6 weeks. And wow. Conrad came, and Trent came, and friends. I set up my studio, hospital studio, and I'm continuing to do it here. And there's a whole series of what I call the orb.
Right. I think Daniel says hello from Berlin.
Daniel. Yes.
Sending big, warm, loving hugs from this cold, gray city, he says.
Oh, yes, Dan, I miss you guys so much.
But there's just so many outpourings of support. And so we'll have those. And we are recording, so this will be made available. So Hunter will have a copy of it, and it'll be at our college as well, so you can watch or share.
So I'm going to put it on my YouTube page, and their page will be around for everyone to watch. Oh, thank you, everyone. I love you, and I'll go into the chat. Can you keep the chat? Can we?
Yeah, we can.
Chat so I can
have it.
respond to questions individually on my own. Okay.
And is there anyone who would like to comment at the end here and just well wish or have other questions?
How does it feel to be a living legacy?
Oh, good question.
Oh, stop.
I wanted to say something. Christy invited me. I'm an alum of MVCC, and this is the best decision I made all week coming to this talk. I've seen your work before, and honestly, it's an honor to me because I'm a photographer, so I've looked into people who photographed you just in your performances. So this is really, really incredible, and I wish you all the best and keep creating art. This is such a good talk, for real.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're
Thanks,
very welcome.
Katrina.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here.
I just want to say hi from Troy, New York, and love from Geraldine McDowell and Nora McDowell.
Oh
And-
God, Nora, John, oh my God.
And I'm looking
so
forward
happy
to
to see you.
solstice with you, Hunter.
Yes,
I'm remembering when you
you made that
shamanistically
beautiful,
put Soleil
the
into flame at
sun
Easton.
flames, yes.
Yes.
On New Year's Eve,
So happy solstice
yes,
from
yes.
Troy.
She was part of me, Easton Mountain. On New Year's Eve, I always did a New Year's Day bonfire. And Nora is talking about, they had a big paper mache sundial that was falling apart. And I said, what are you doing with this? She said, no, we're just maybe throw it away. I said, no, we'll fix it and burn it. So we burned the sun on New Year's Day in the cold and the snow. It was great. I'll post some pictures about that somewhere on my Facebook.
That sounds amazing.
So give Geraldine a big hug for me, please.
I will. I'll give love to Rosa House. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks for all the outpouring of support and love here for Hunter. It's wonderful to see. Any last things people want to say?
Pleasure to meet you and to hear your story. I'm glad that you shared it with us, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you look closely at the Joel Handog frame, you will see a piece on the wall that looks like a magical bug to me that Hunter gave us, and that's been made in the last period of time. He has so much work that has not been shown here, but you get an overview of the imagination that never fucking stops.
Also, to my detriment sometimes.
Also, AIDS did not win, the human spirit won. And we have to always watch for the future. We must have activists. We must have activists. We must have people who have the courage to act.
Yep.
And you have great courage. And this has been really wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, I'm exhausted. So
Absolutely.
all this adulation gave me tired.
Well, good. Thank you all for joining us. I think we'll end the Zoom
Louis
now.
Wiley, I see you.
There's so many people.
Louis, hello.
I don't even want to go on the other end because I just heard the news today, sorry, about Roe versus Wade.
Oh,
being
no, God,
overturned.
what happened?
I don't know, Hunter, from where we were to where we are going. It's just,
Yeah, I don't want to hear it now.
yeah, I know. That's what I meant.
Look.
Yeah, I'm afraid to look too. So just keep going forward. Stay
Yeah.
strong, and thank you so much. And I'll catch up. I'm gonna ring you.
Yeah. Okay, Lisa.
Lots of love.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Take care. Look after
Bye. I
yourself.
really appreciate it. And I'll answer questions personally. I'll go through the chat and I'll contact you through messaging and answer more questions.
We love you, Hunter.
Bye. Love you guys.
Bye, Hunter. Good job.
Thank
Talk to
you.
you
Thank you, Hunter.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Should I leave?
You can leave. I'm going to go ahead and shut all up.
Ellie, everybody.
Everybody.
Hey, let me just say, let's see.
I'll be with you both now. Thank you again.
Bye, Hunter.
I want to see everybody.
Yeah, thanks so much, Hunter. It was fantastic. It was so powerful, especially for today. Just a beautiful lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I see everybody. Shelley, yes. Oh my God. Jamal, yes.
Hey, Hunter.
Here's the moon. Oh my God. Now I've got everyone's names up here. Sharon's phone. Yes. Hi, everybody. Sherry Rose.
Sherry Rose. Oh my
Sharon's my mom. Hi, Mom.
Really?
I
Very
love
cool.
you.
Okay.
Bye.